This is Big Podcast.
You know this thing, Christmas in July? That's what it feels like right now for podcasters. I'm going to get into it. It's Build a Big Podcast, the marketing podcast for podcasters. If you want to grow your podcast audience, if you want to build a bigger podcast, if you want people to care about your podcast, if you want to spread your message, make more money with your message, make impact with your message, you are in the right place. This is the audio edition of my weekly newsletter. That is called Big Podcast Insider. You can find that and all the links of everything that I'm talking about and more information about what I'm talking about at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is issue number 190. Here's what I'm covering. A good week for podcasters. Accessibility equals audience growth. Don't lose your podcast or your reputation. Audacity 3.6, it is out. It's got some cool new stuff. I'm going to go deeper into that. Also just released Overcast, a popular podcast player that has been rebuilt from the ground up. Turn your podcast into social media content with AI. This thing's pretty cool. It turns your podcast into 30 plus pieces of engaging social media content. I'll dive more into that. How much did you spend on Prime Day? Those bills are coming due. Also some classified ads, things that will help you to grow your podcast, get more people to your podcast, spread your message and make more money with your podcast. The things that this podcast is about. This episode of Build a Big Podcast is brought to you by Riverside.fm, a virtual studio that makes recording and editing at the highest quality possible, accessible to anyone. You know, I've been out and about this week. I normally work from home, and it's always shocking to me to leave the house and find out how crazy things are when that happens. Imagine a guest coming to you, or you going to a guest. And look, I like to get together in person as much as the next guy, but if you're doing that every single episode, your podcast production is a lot harder than it needs to be. Fortunately, with Riverside.fm, you can sound like you're in the same room without ever leaving your room and without your guests ever leaving their rooms. You look and sound your best. Everything is recorded locally. Not only audio, but video, up to 4K video, if you're not afraid of that. I am. That's why this podcast is audio only. You also get instant transcriptions powered by AI with 99% accuracy. As I just mentioned a minute ago, I'm talking about accessibility in this episode of Build a Big Podcast. This is one of those things that will help that. And when you've got accessibility, you get more listeners. You're going to look great. You're going to sound great. Your podcast is going to be more accessible, easier for people to listen to. It's Riverside.fm. You can try it for free. That's the URL, Riverside.fm. Go there now. Get a free account. They're going to give you a couple of hours. Take a look. Check out all these tools. Use them on an interview or two. A couple of hours, that's enough for an episode or two. Then if you like it, and you will, no more fighting traffic, no more worrying about high-quality audio. This is how you stick around. You'll get 15% off with the code BIGPODCAST, BIGPODCAST, the URL, riverside.fm. Go there, get a free account. If you want to stick it out, 15% off with the code BIGPODCAST, BIGPODCAST. Here we go. Everything about podcasting. And when I switch from one podcasting thing to the next, you are going to hear this sound. That's how you know it's time to go to newsletter.bigpodcast.com if you want more information, links. This is episode 190. Here we go. A good week for podcasters. A couple of big podcasting-related announcements this week. Audacity 3.6, I mentioned that. That was released. It's got some really nice updated features, including a new set of Audacity exclusive plugins. I'm going to get to that later on in this episode. Also, popular podcast player Overcast got a brand new upgrade, making it an even better option for you to consume podcasts. I don't use Overcast to listen to podcasts. However, it's so popular, so many people use it. It's a good idea for you to check it out, see how it works. It is free. We'll get into that. Bottom line, whether you're making podcasts or consuming podcasts, it was a good week for everybody in podcasting. Also, Amazon Prime Day, we will get into that. By the way, this episode recorded and edited on Audacity 3.6. It's the most popular software to record podcasts. Tens of thousands of people download it every week. I've been using it for 20 years. So many people using it. You've heard good, bad, and ugly. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a sec. Big Podcast AMP. If you like this newsletter, you're going to love Big Podcast AMP. AMP. It stands for Audio Monetization Program. It's a personal coaching program. You're going to work with me, and we're going to focus on three things. 1, growing your podcast audience. 2, getting people talking about your podcast. And 3, making more money with your podcast and your podcasting skills. You may think podcasting is easy. It may be easy to you, but it's not easy to everybody. This is something you can charge for and you can make great money with. That's why I created the audio monetization program. If you're interested, this is the URL, bigpodcast.com/amp. That's AMP, bigpodcast.com/amp. Accessibility equals audience growth. If you want a bigger audience for your podcast, you need to make it more accessible. And I want you to listen up here because this is going to give you a new perspective on why accessibility is so important. This is a quote. And this guy says, "I rarely listen to video content at my co-working space. Give me good captions and I'll consume the content. But if I must listen, I'll move on and search for content that doesn't require me to consume sound. In this case, the quiet in the office setting fosters a situational disability for me." Situational disabilities. That is the key word for what I'm talking about. And that's a big reason why 52% of people who watch Netflix do that with the subtitles on. You've got people on loud buses, subways, bus stops, gyms. Who knows where they are, but they are consuming content everywhere. Sometimes you can't hear it. Sometimes you can't see it. This is one of the reasons that I love audio-only content. You can consume that in the car. You don't have to watch a video for that. But what happens when you can't consume the audio? A transcript helps. I talked about Riverside.fm. They've got AI transcripts, 99% accuracy. Everything is automated. It is very easy to do this. And it's going to help you because podcast listeners also like text options. You've heard me mention Cast Magic. This is one of the reasons the episode notes are important. I've heard debates on this. Some people say, no episode notes. I want people to consume the podcast. And other people say, no, I'm going to do episode notes. If people find those notes helpful and they don't have to listen to the podcast, the content was still helpful. And I agree with that one. If you can get what I'm talking about via the notes and you don't have to listen to me, by all means do it. And if you want to see my episode notes, podcast.bigpodcast.com. That is where they live. I use Cast Magic all the time. It's great for timestamps. It's great for finding hooks. It's great for finding bullet points, summaries. If you want to look at your podcast and go deep with accessibility options, basically do an audit on your podcast. Find out how you can reach even more people with your message. I've got the Web Accessibility Evaluation Tools list. It's linked at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is episode number 190. Do this. Take a look at your podcast and think about all those people who can't hear you. Situational disability may be a permanent disability. How can you reach them? Those are people who want to consume your message. They want to buy what you are sponsoring. They want to hear from you, even if they need to hear it in a different way. If you really want to reach people, you're going to put this into your workflow. Like I said, it's easy with AI. Cast Magic can handle the episode notes. Riverside.fm, automated transcriptions. Of course, those aren't the only options. I'd love to know how you're making your podcast accessible. Reach out to me, Mastodon, Blue Sky, Threads. How are you making your podcast more accessible? If you got a good story about it, let me know. Maybe I'll feature you here on the podcast. Do reach out, Blue Sky, Mastodon, or Threads. You can find all the links to everything I'm talking about, including the Web Accessibility Evaluation Tools list. Also these tools, Riverside, Cast Magic, everything at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is issue number 190. Don't lose your podcast or your reputation. The Rock You 2024 League. Do you know about this? It's got nothing to do with podcasting, so maybe not, but it's got everything to do with your podcast. You are distributing an important message to a lot of people who trust you. Don't let carelessness allow a bad actor to have access to those people. You see this all the time on YouTube. Somebody will have a big channel. YouTube gets hacked. A bad actor takes control of that channel, puts up a bunch of scammy videos, basically takes advantage of the audience that you spent possibly years building up, takes advantage of that trust. And when that happens, it can be difficult to get that trust back. If you're not using a password manager, consider this a gentle reminder. I like 1Password. Bitwarden is another very popular option. These are easy to implement. You go to a website, let's say it's Yahoo. You got to log into Yahoo. You type in your master password, and then 1Password fills in the real password, which is long and very difficult to guess. Something else that I do that I recommend, consider two-factor authentication, 2FA they call it. I'm talking about the 6-7-digit code that you get via your phone or a USB key. Those are nice. You have to physically touch those. $50 on Amazon. I've got it linked at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. You do not want to be hacked. I didn't have a hack, but I did have some issues with some cloud data this week where I lost a lot of stuff. I was able to recover it. Not a big deal, but it's because I had things in place to recover it. Don't take your data for granted. Don't take your audience for granted. Don't take all those episodes that you've already uploaded for granted. First thing, strong passwords. Second thing, two-factor authentication. Third thing, possibly something like a USB key. And I know that's two-factor authentication. Look, here's what I'm saying. Your data, you put a lot of time building relationships with the people who listen to your podcast. Inch by inch is how we do it. This podcast, I'm on 600 something episodes right now. Imagine that. What happens if that all disappeared? It could. It almost did. Fortunately, I had some backup things in place. You want the same thing for your passwords. So something like this, somebody getting in and hijacking your data, that does not happen to you. I've got thoughts on this. I've got links to 1Password, Bitwarden, a USB key option that will protect your data. You don't want to lose it, then wish you'd spent the $50 to protect yourself. Protect yourself. You can find out more information, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is issue number 190. Audacity 3.6. Let's talk about this. I love Audacity. I've mentioned that I've been using it for 20-something years. People make fun of me. Audacity? Don't you use Pro Tools? Yeah, I got a copy of Pro Tools. Yeah, I got Reaper. Yeah, I got Audition. I know how to use all of them. But I love Audacity for the simplicity. And I love Audacity because it's free. To me, that is one of the most empowering things about it. You can download this software for free. You can record with a $50 USB mic and sound great. Get your message out to the world. Do something that people care about, that inspires people, that changes lives. I don't take that for granted, and I want to support that. So I love Audacity. I'm excited about the new release. Here's what is new. They've got some new effects. In fact, they've got an effects library. I'm talking about things like compression, a limiter. These are things that were built for Audacity. They're going to make your podcast sound better. They're going to make your voice sound better. They've got some nice settings on there. A podcasting setting on the compressor. You want to sound like you're on the radio? Yeah, you can do that. The new version has a master effects channel that applies to the entire project, not just individual tracks. That's going to save you on some production time. I mentioned the new compressor and limiter. Great for spoken word audio like podcast. A new and improved dark and light theme. I'm using the light theme right now. I'm more of a classic guy. Like I said, I've been using this thing for 20 years. I'm checking out the light theme. It's not bad. It looks very professional. If you like dark mode, they got that too. Mike Adams, he runs something called Learn Audacity, and I love the training that Mike has on Audacity. If you do not know how to use it, I've got a link at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is issue 190. He's got a podcast episode he released on Audacity 3.6 that goes deeper into the changes and improvements. I've got that linked. Again, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. The official release video, you're going to want to watch this. This is going to make you want to test Audacity, even if you're thinking, no, I'm skeptical. That free software, I used it. It wasn't very good. Look, I get it. I've been using it for 20 years. There have been ups and downs of Audacity, but it's improving. One of the comments was that it's going to be a full-featured free DAW pretty soon. It's already pretty full-featured. People complain about it having destructive editing, meaning that you make decisions and they're permanent. Not so much anymore. There are non-destructive elements. All the plugins that you use, these VST plugins, Isotope, they work flawlessly. It's amazing. It's so nice to have Audacity step it up like it has. 3.6 is a big improvement, not only for all these features, but it's actually faster. So if you've got a bigger project, a lot of tracks, you know how I do this. I've got my voice on one track. I've got the effects, things like this. And the intro guy.
Big podcast.
That's on another track. So that's 2 tracks, my voice and the effects track. Then I've got a third track that's the music that goes under the ads. No problems at all. If you've got a lot of people, a lot of effects, things get a lot more complicated than that. Audacity can handle it all. You owe it to yourself to check it out. If you want to see more thoughts on it, the podcast episode from Mike, the trailer video, I've got it all linked. It's at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. Overcast, rebuilt from the ground up. Marco Arment, independent developer. He spent almost 18 months rebuilding the popular podcast player Overcast. Modern frameworks, modern programming. It's brand new and it's now available. You're going to notice this. Like Audacity, Overcast is now faster. If you're listening in the car, it's got easily reachable controls for large phones. This is great. When you're driving, you just need to reach over the phone, boop, fast forward, go to the next podcast, pause maybe. That's handy. It's got a modern look. Here's what 9 to 5 Mac says. Overcast has been a leader in the world of podcasting for a decade, literally a decade. And today's update checks all the right boxes. Rewriting an app that's been around for so long is a daunting task, 18 months. But Overcast has done it right. You can get it for free. My suggestion, even if you've got a favorite podcast player, and I love something called RSS Radio. Love it. Been using it, 10, 12 years at least. I'm not switching. But I like Overcast, and I like knowing how Overcast is used because so many people use it. If you've got a listener and say, hey, I got this Overcast app and I need to know how to get your podcast, it's good for you to know how to use it. Arguably the number one independent podcasting player that there is. I've got more thoughts and links for you to get it for free at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is issue number 190. Turn your podcast into social media content with AI. This is a tool called Alphana. You upload your podcast and it spits out 30 plus pieces of engaging content, including clips from timestamps, AI images. You need a visual? Yeah, it's got it for you. LinkedIn posts, Twitter threads, blog posts, TikTok videos, Instagram reels, YouTube shorts. You want a description for that short, that YouTube video? It does that too. Timestamp notes and chapters, a summary of your podcast, key takeaways, Instagram reel captions, Facebook captions, questions asked, questions to ponder. I like this. If you're asking questions throughout your podcast, it will list those automatically. And also questions to ponder. What did you think about Overcast? How are you listening to podcasts? Is it Overcast or is it something else like RSS Radio? Do you use Audacity? All the things that I'm talking about, this will give me questions for you to ponder and get more out of the episode. Notable quotes, multiple choice quizzes, true or false quizzes, fill in the blank quizzes, also a press release. Best of all, $49. It's worth you taking a look at. It's a cool tool. AI, man, it's making our job easier. Is it perfect? No, man, no. You're going to want to edit it. You're going to want to put it in your voice, maybe a little bit better than the AI engine will automatically give you, but it's pretty cool. Not totally hands off, but for $49, it gives you a good start, some stuff that you can edit. If you're doing social media, you owe it to yourself to check it out. You can get the link, more information, that complete list of everything that it does at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is issue number 190. How much did you spend on Prime Day? You know I love jokes in the newsletter. And if you haven't seen the jokes, you haven't been to newsletter.bigpodcast.com. That's where they all live. A lot of them are visual. Amazon Prime Day was this week. A couple days, actually. Prime Days. And almost everything from Zoom was on sale. I back up everything I do in this studio on a Zoom F3. It's a field recorder, 32-bit float, more or less is one button, a record button. Set it and forget it. Everything that I do is backed up, which is so nice because recordings, sometimes they fail. Nothing's perfect. You can't get back a moment in time. A couple $100, you're good to go on a backup recorder. That's how cheap this stuff was on Amazon Prime Day. A lot of Zoom stuff was cheap. Also, the ATR 2100, I think it was $39. What? $39. Get that Audacity 3.6 for free. You are good to go. Still some great deals up, by the way. I'm curious if you got anything good. Let me know, Mastodon, Blue Sky, or Threads, and go see this joke. You can find it at newsletter.bigpodcast.com, issue number 190. Classified ads for you. These are things that will help you to grow your podcast, get more people to your podcast, look more professional, make more money with your podcast, charge more money for your sponsorships. Podpage. 25,000 podcasters have used it to create a beautiful listener-friendly podcast site via an RSS feed. You go to Podpage. You input your RSS feed. Boom! You got a podcast website. Is it set and forget it? No, man. Like the AI, you got to edit it a little bit, change the colors, make it work a little bit more for you, but it's pretty close. You can be up and running, 20, 30 minutes. Podpage. You can try it for free. I've got a link for you at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. Cast Magic, automated episode notes. Speaking of AI, 35,000 podcasters use Cast Magic to automate episode notes, highlight clips, podcast summaries, blog posts, social media posts, and newsletters. Imagine recording your podcast, uploading it to Cast Magic, and getting all of these things. If you want to see Cast Magic in action, this is what I use. podcast.bigpodcast.com. You can see my episode notes. It's gotten better and better and better. You can try it for free, upload your podcast audio, let Cast Magic do the rest. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com to get a special link. Something I really like about it are built-in templates. Other podcasters share what they are doing. And I mentioned this other tool where you can get quizzes, questions to ponder, all that stuff available for you in Cast Magic. We talked about accessibility earlier. This is a great way to do it. Have complete episode notes and do it with the power of AI. It's called Cast Magic. And again, the link, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. Hey, when you're ready, this is how I can help you even more. I talked about Big Podcast Amp, the audio monetization program, personalized coaching for indie podcasters to help you grow your podcast audience, and also build your authority, brand, and reputation. If you want to make money with your podcasting skills, if you want to make money with your podcast, get more people to your podcast, this is the way to do it. You'll work personally with me. I will guide you through the process. We're going to tell your story and do it in a big way that attracts people, makes you money, and makes an impact. You can find out more information at bigpodcast.com/amp. If you're not ready to go that deep, you want to see more of what I've got to offer, you like this podcast, you like the newsletter, you know where to find it, right? Newsletter.bigpodcast.com. I've got another newsletter, short emails to help you build an audience, attract clients, and make money via podcasting. That is called Big Podcast Extra. You will find it. Also, my podcast growth toolkit linked at bigpodcast.com. Everything that I do is about helping you grow your podcast. And we do that by making you sound better, putting a handle on your message, clarifying that message, spreading that message in a way people want to hear, people will share, and people will take action on. You can find all that information at bigpodcast.com. While you are there, I want you to subscribe to this podcast. You're not subscribed already? What are you doing, man? Go to bigpodcast.com/subscribe, set it and forget it. One click is all it takes. iPhone, Android, RSS, 3 buttons, pick one of them. However you want to get the podcast, I will send it to you free of charge, hassle-free, and automatic. Never, ever will you have to manually download another episode of Build a Big Podcast. It will already be there waiting for you as soon as a new episode is released. So go there now, bigpodcast.com/subscribe. Get subscribed, and I'll see you on the next episode of Build a Big Podcast.